The first thing that strikes any reader of The Automatic Millionaire is how disarmingly simple its core message is. You do not need extraordinary intelligence, a perfect career path, or even a high income to become wealthy. You simply need a system that removes willpower from the equation and allows wealth to grow quietly in the background of your life. And yet that message, as simple as it is, becomes revolutionary when viewed against the chaos of modern financial life. Most people today, whether in Lagos, New York, Nairobi, London, or Atlanta, are overwhelmed by daily expenses, under pressure to survive the month, and often convinced that wealth is something reserved for people who started early, earned more, or got lucky. David Bach begins by destroying that myth through one powerful truth. The automatic path to wealth doesn't ask when you start. It only asks that you start now, no matter how late you feel you are. If this is your first time, subscribe so you don't miss out. Let's continue. This foundation is introduced through the now famous story of Jim and Sue McIntyre, an ordinary American couple with very ordinary incomes who somehow managed to pay off their mortgage early, save hundreds of thousands of dollars, and position themselves for a quiet but secure retirement. They didn't win the lottery, they didn't inherit a fortune, and they didn't own a tech startup. They simply used automation. They made their savings and investments happen automatically, month after month, without giving themselves the opportunity to become that own worst enemy. And in this story, a deeper lesson emerges. Wealth is rarely the result of dramatic events. It is usually the result of small, consistent decisions executed long before you feel ready. This idea resonates even more strongly in today's world, where financial distractions are everywhere. Subscription platforms, impulsive online shopping, social media-driven desires, and lifestyle expectations constantly chip away at income. Many people claim they can't save anything, yet they spend without tracking. Bach uses this reality to gently confront the reader with a question that feels both uncomfortable and necessary. If you don't automatically pay yourself first, then you are automatically paying everyone else first. Your landlord, your bank, your data provider, your favorite restaurant, the companies behind the apps on your phone. In other words, you either make saving unavoidable or spending will always dominate your life. What makes this argument so compelling is that it isn't tied to a particular culture or country. You can find people in Nigeria who earn 150,000 naira monthly and still manage to save because they automate a deduction into a cooperative or investment platform before they even touch their salary. Likewise, you can find workers in the U.S. earning $6,000 monthly who still live paycheck to paycheck because every dollar is allocated only after it arrives in their hands. The difference isn't income, it's behavior. This is one of the earliest, most powerful lessons embedded in the book. Financial transformation begins not with how much money you earn, but how you structure your decisions so that discipline is no longer optional. Another central insight that emerges early is the power of what Bach calls the Latte Factor. Although he emphasizes that it doesn't have to literally be about coffee, the point is about unconscious spending. Tiny amounts that feel harmless but accumulate to staggering totals over time. In the U.S., the example might be buying a $6 latte every morning, $12 lunches 5 times a week, or streaming services that quietly withdraw $15 per month. In Nigeria, the equivalent could be daily shawarma purchases, constant data renewals, multiple transport app rides when a cheaper option was available, or nightly impulse spending on Jumia or Instagram vendors. Bach is not attacking comfort or enjoyment. He is revealing a deeper truth that applies globally. You cannot build wealth until you identify where your money leaks, because a leaking bucket can never be filled no matter how much water you pour in. But the story doesn't stop at identifying leaks. It transitions into a more empowering principle. Every small amount saved, when automated and invested, becomes a wealth-building engine over time. This idea is universal and timeless, and it's supported by real-world examples that continue to emerge today. Consider an average young professional in Canada who sets up an automatic transfer of $150 monthly into an index fund. They may not notice the money leaving their account, but 10 years later, even under moderate market conditions, that sum grows significantly, not because of luck, but because time rewards consistency. Similarly, a worker in Ghana or Kenya who puts a fixed amount into investment cooperatives or treasury bonds every month may not feel wealthy today, but over many years, that same habit creates options they never imagined in their early adulthood. This leads naturally into another foundational idea embedded in the narrative: the power of paying yourself first. Not paying yourself when money remains, but paying yourself before anything else, because if you wait for leftover money, you'll never have any. This is proven true across every economy, especially during inflationary periods. In the United States, during the recent inflation spikes after 2020, millions realized that waiting for money to remain after monthly expenses was impossible. Everything was becoming more expensive. In Nigeria, post-subsidy removal, the same truth became painfully clear: waiting for leftovers means waiting forever. Bach argues that the most powerful financial act you can ever take is to treat your future like a bill that must be paid, the same way you treat rent, utilities, or transportation. If your future is optional, it will always be ignored. But paying yourself first alone is not enough. It must be automatic. Humans are emotional, inconsistent, and easily influenced by stress or temptation. Automation cancels all that. Bach's argument becomes almost psychological. You remove discipline from the equation, and suddenly discipline becomes effortless. This is why global retirement systems like 401k accounts in the United States or automatic pension deductions in Europe work so well. People save by default. Money grows by default. They don't have to think about it. In many African countries, employees who contribute automatically to cooperative societies or pensions year after year also benefit from this phenomenon, not because they're more disciplined, but because their decision was made once and the system did the rest. To deepen the point, consider a real-life American example. Many U.S. employers offer 401k matching. Employees who set up an automatic deduction, even as low as 3% or 5% of salary, often accumulate tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over decades. Meanwhile, coworkers who intend to do it later or prefer to wait until things get better often end up with little or nothing saved, not because they were less intelligent or less hardworking, but because their financial progress depended on manual action. The global equivalent appears everywhere. In the UK, employees who opt into the automatic pension scheme accumulate far more for retirement than those who opt out.
In Nigeria, people who join automated thrift contributions, Ajo or Esusu, or salary-based savings platforms consistently outperform those who try to save manually. The pattern holds across continents because human behavior is universal. Bach uses these examples to guide readers toward another quiet truth. Wealth is not an event, it is a system. People imagine wealth coming through sudden opportunity or dramatic income increases, but most millionaires, especially automatic millionaires, are built through habits that operate quietly, almost invisibly, in the background. This realization helps the reader understand another embedded lesson. Anticipating motivation is a trap. Everyone imagines they will save when they feel like it, or when life becomes easier, but life rarely becomes easier, and motivation never stays constant. Automation bypasses this limitation of human nature. Somewhere in the early rhythm of the book, Bach also corrects a misconception often seen around the world, that you need to be debt-free before you start saving. In reality, he argues the opposite. Saving must begin even while debt repayment continues, because the habit must form early, and because compound interest grows independent of your emotional readiness. This is strikingly true in real-world scenarios. Take the example of a young American teacher with $40,000 in student loans who waits to pay everything off before saving. They may spend 10 years fighting debt before they even start investing, losing precious compounding years. Meanwhile, A similar teacher who invests just $150 monthly while paying down debt begins compounding early and ends up far wealthier over time. The story repeats in other regions. In South Africa, many young workers burdened by educational loans delay investing until they feel ready, missing years of growth. In contrast, those who balance small investments with loan repayment build security while reducing debt. The system must begin even before perfection is achieved, because if you wait for perfect conditions, you will wait forever. All these insights form a narrative staircase, each step leading naturally to the next. First, recognizing unnecessary spending, then acknowledging the power of small amounts, then learning to pay yourself first, then embracing automation, and finally, understanding that wealth grows from systems rather than emotion. Part 1 of this journey ends with a powerful emotional shift, the realization that building wealth is not just possible for ordinary people, it is often easier for ordinary people than for high-income earners who live without structure. Bach shows that the average receptionist, who automatically saves before spending, will surpass the high-income executive who tries to save manually from leftovers, because systems beat intention, automation beats ambition, and consistency beats excitement every time. As the ideas of paying yourself first and creating automatic systems begin to settle, the next stage in The Automatic Millionaire naturally transitions into the deeper mechanics of how these systems actually build wealth. David Bach emphasizes that once money is automatically set aside, the next crucial decision involves where to direct it. And here, the book introduces a principle that is both universal and radical in its simplicity. Investing does not need to be complicated to be effective. The financial industry often gives the impression that wealth-gaining strategies require complexity, charts, forecasts, analysts, insider information, but in reality, most ordinary people grow wealthy using slow, steady, boring investments. Bach argues that you should embrace the boring because boring works wonders over time. To make the concept accessible, he frequently refers to retirement accounts like 401ks in the United States or RRSPs in Canada. These accounts offer tax advantages, employer matching, and automatic contributions, 3 ingredients that accelerate wealth building quietly. The American example is particularly striking because many workers who never considered themselves wealthy retire with large balances simply because they allowed automation to run for decades. In fact, one of the largest groups of retirees with million-dollar 401k balances today aren't CEOs or doctors. They're teachers, factory workers, nurses, and low-level administrators who consistently allowed automatic deductions to work in their favor. Bach uses this evidence to assert another critical lesson. Wealth rarely depends on talent. It depends on time. From a global perspective, this principle holds just as strongly. In countries like Australia, the compulsory superannuation system automatically deducts savings into retirement accounts for every worker. Many Australians wake up at retirement age realizing that they have become millionaires without ever consciously trying, because the system was automatic. In parts of Europe, mandatory pension schemes enforce automatic contributions, ensuring that even lower-income individuals build long-term financial security. Meanwhile, in emerging economies, automated savings cooperatives and digital investment platforms such as PiggyVest or Cowrywise in Nigeria, M-Pesa-based savings in Kenya, and wealth apps in India have created millions of first-time savers who rely not on willpower, but on automation. Across continents, the same pattern emerges. Automation creates wealth for people who otherwise may never have saved consistently. Bach deepens this lesson by highlighting another powerful but misunderstood idea. You do not need to know everything about investing to get started. You simply need to start. In other words, remove complexity and begin with what you understand. Many people delay investing for years because they feel uneducated, yet they never take the steps to learn because the moment always feels overwhelming. Bach dismantles this hesitation by focusing on accessible vehicles such as index funds, target date funds, or stable long-term mutual funds, tools that are designed for simplicity and steady growth. He explains that trying to time the market or chase quick returns often leads to losses, while automatic investing at regular intervals, known as dollar-cost averaging, smooths out volatility and results in steady growth. You invest whether the market is high or low, and over time, the average cost balances out in your favor. To illustrate this, he references how ordinary American workers who invested automatically during the 2008 financial crisis, the 2020 pandemic crash, or other downturns performed far better in the long run than those who panicked and tried to stop or delay their contributions. The ones who stayed consistent eventually bought stocks at bargain prices without even realizing it. Meanwhile, in countries like India or Brazil, long-term investors who stayed the course through economic turbulence consistently outperformed those who tried to outsmart the market. The underlying message becomes clear. Wealth belongs to those who stay consistent, not to those who get anxious. At this stage, the narrative begins shifting into one of the most emotionally charged aspects of the book: home ownership. Bach makes a bold argument that often triggers debate. He suggests that owning a home is a critical component of the automatic wealth-building process. While opinions differ globally due to varying real estate markets, Bach's reasoning is rooted in the psychology of forced savings. A mortgage is, in many ways, a form of automatic wealth building.
Every month, part of your payment goes toward ownership, not consumption. Renting, by contrast, makes you pay someone else first with no long-term equity in return. Bach doesn't romanticize real estate. He simply reframes it as an automatic system, a long-term commitment that forces discipline and increases your net worth without requiring emotional strength. In the United States, decades of data support this view. Homeowners consistently have far higher net worth than renters, even when income levels are similar. When the median American homeowner retires, a huge portion of their wealth often comes from home equity, accumulated quietly over decades. Real estate appreciation, combined with the declining mortgage balance, creates a powerful wealth engine that most people underestimate. Similarly, in countries like Canada, the UK, and Australia, property ownership has historically been a stabilizing force in wealth building, especially for middle-income earners. Even in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa, where property markets have different challenges, the principle holds. Those who manage to secure and maintain property ownership often experience long-term financial stability simply because the mortgage forced them into a saving structure they would not have achieved manually. What makes this part of the book particularly compelling is its honest acknowledgement of reality. Buying a home is hard. It requires courage, discipline, and often sacrifice. But this is precisely why it works. Bach highlights that most people think in short-term comfort rather than long-term advantage. They undervalue the forced discipline of mortgage payments and overvalue the freedom of renting, without recognizing that this freedom often leads to decades of financial stagnation. This becomes even more pronounced in countries with rising rent inflation. In Lagos, for instance, rent demands often grow annually, forcing tenants into financial instability. Meanwhile, a homeowner with fixed mortgage payments gradually escapes the cycle of increasing rent. The same holds in major cities like New York, Toronto, London, and Johannesburg. Locking in a mortgage stabilizes the future. Renting exposes you to constant uncertainty. However, Bach is careful not to suggest that homeownership is the only route to wealth, but emphasizes that its automatic nature makes it a powerful system aligned with the book's philosophy. Owning a home is not about status. It is about building equity without relying on strength of will. And this insight leads directly into a broader, more universal lesson. Wealth grows best in environments where discipline has been engineered into the structure.
Whether it's automatic investing or automatic mortgage payments, the effect is the same. A portion of your income is consistently directed toward assets, not expenses. From here, the narrative flows into the next natural principle, protecting your wealth through automation as well. Bach highlights that financial success is not just about earning and saving, it is also about protecting what you build. This includes automation of insurance, emergency funds, and even charitable contributions. Many people underestimate insurance until a crisis hits. In the United States, medical emergencies are one of the leading causes of financial ruin. Having automatic payments toward health insurance, life insurance, or disability coverage ensures protection without constant decision-making. Likewise, in countries with growing entrepreneurial sectors like Kenya, Nigeria, or India, unexpected illness, theft, or business interruptions can erase years of progress for those without adequate protection. Automation of insurance premiums safeguards against these uncertainties. Another often overlooked layer is the automation of giving. Bach argues that generosity should not be accidental or based on leftover resources. It should be deliberate, structured, and automatic. Giving creates emotional wealth, shapes character, and fosters purpose, but it also teaches a deeper habit, the ability to allocate money consciously rather than impulsively. Across cultures, this resonates strongly. In the United States, charitable giving is deeply integrated into personal finance, with many people automating monthly support for causes they value. In African communities, giving often takes the form of supporting family networks or community initiatives, and automating contributions can reduce financial stress while ensuring consistency. The broader lesson: money is not just about accumulation, it is also about intentional distribution. As the book progresses, the story sharpens into a psychological transformation. The reader begins to realize that wealth is not built through superhuman effort, but through ordinary systems executed over long periods. This realization dissolves many of the fears that hold people back: the fear of not earning enough, the fear of starting too late, the fear of making mistakes. Bach's narrative steadily reinforces that the power of becoming an automatic millionaire lies not in perfection, but in consistency. You can make mistakes along the way, but automation ensures progress continues even during the periods when motivation fades. This part closes by emphasizing that the most profound breakthroughs in personal finance are rarely inspirational, they are structural. You do not rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your systems. And once those systems are automatic, you ascend almost effortlessly toward financial independence, even if the journey takes time. As the journey toward becoming an automatic millionaire progresses, one truth becomes increasingly clear. Wealth is rarely built through dramatic, complicated systems, but through small, repeatable acts that compound over time. At this stage of the journey, the focus shifts from merely knowing what to do to shaping an environment where wealth grows without needing constant supervision. The systems you create become the invisible workforce that handles your money even while you sleep. And the next evolution of this mindset emerges when you learn that building wealth is not only about accumulation, but also about protection, because there is no point creating wealth if you leave it exposed. This is why one of the most powerful principles in the Automatic Millionaire is the idea of paying yourself and then protecting your future. It is not enough to save. You must shield yourself from the unexpected so your progress is never wiped away. In the U.S., this often involves securing adequate health insurance, disability insurance, and emergency funds. David Bach shared stories of people who had been saving diligently for years, only to watch their savings evaporate after a medical emergency, job loss, or unexpected disaster. In Nigeria, for instance, many small business owners slowly build capital for years, but fail to secure any form of emergency cushion or insurance, so one downturn, such as a market closure or a medical incident, can completely reset their progress. The lesson is brutally consistent across continents. Automatic success must be paired with automatic protection.
But the magic of automatic protection is that it reinforces discipline without requiring force. People rarely make wise decisions in moments of panic, so systems help you make wise decisions in advance.
Bach compares this to automatic seat belts in modern cars. You don't think about buckling up because the system is built around you. Similarly, building automatic financial shields allows you to drive through the unpredictable roads of life with less fear and greater stability. The next natural progression in the wealth journey is learning how to own rather than rent your life. Bach emphasizes that owning a home is one of the biggest levers of long-term wealth creation. In the U.S., research shows that homeowners have dramatically higher net worth than renters, partly because mortgage payments build equity instead of disappearing into rent. Globally, the pattern is similar. In nations like Canada and the UK, homes appreciate steadily over decades, becoming wealth reservoirs for families. Even in emerging economies like Ghana, Kenya, or Nigeria, where real estate markets fluctuate, long-term property ownership often becomes a hedge against currency devaluation. For example, in Nigeria, those who bought property in cities like Lagos or Abuja 10 years ago have seen massive appreciation due to urban expansion and rising demand. The principle remains: ownership multiplies wealth silently, and when the process of paying for that ownership becomes automatic, the results become almost inevitable. Bach's teaching on homeownership becomes more powerful when paired with the concept of making payments automatic. Many people struggle to save because they depend on willpower, which inevitably weakens. But when you automate mortgage payments or investment contributions, you remove emotion and hesitation entirely. This is the same principle used by American 401(k) systems, where employers automatically deduct retirement contributions before employees ever touch their salary. Many U.S. workers who never considered themselves disciplined investors end up retiring with hundreds of thousands of dollars, simply because the system removed the need for decision-making. This principle is equally powerful in other parts of the world where automated banking systems are evolving. For example, many African banks now allow automated savings deductions, encouraging young professionals to set up recurring transfers into investment wallets or cooperative funds. A Kenyan teacher who sets up an automated transfer of a small percentage of her salary into a SACCO, savings and credit cooperative, can build capital over years without any conscious effort. A Nigerian entrepreneur who automates weekly transfers into a mutual fund or dollar-denominated savings account can achieve stability even when local currency fluctuates. These examples show that automation is not limited by geography, only by the willingness to use available tools. Another transformative lesson is eliminating debt, not by fighting it emotionally, but by setting up automatic payments that slowly erase it. David Bach emphasizes that many people fail to get wealthy not because they don't earn, but because they bleed money through interest payments. Credit card debt, payday loans, loan sharks, high-interest overdrafts, buy now, pay later schemes, and informal debts drain wealth silently. But when you create an automated debt repayment strategy, you turn the tide in the opposite direction. The strategy is simple but powerful. Pay yourself first, then automate systematic debt reduction, starting with the highest interest rate. Over time, debt shrinks without daily stress, freeing more money for investments. This principle has played out for millions across the world. In the U.S., individuals who set up automatic student loan payments or credit card repayments chip away at large balances until they disappear. In Canada, many families participate in debt snowball programs that use automated withdrawals to eliminate debts one by one. In the UK, direct debits help individuals avoid late fees and reduce overall debt costs. In Africa, where informal loans carry extremely high interest rates, automating repayments can prevent spirals that swallow income. Across continents, the same truth wins. Automated debt repayment is a pathway to freedom. Once debt shrinks and saving becomes habitual, the next evolution is investing consistently, long-term, automatically, and without emotional interference.
David Bach argues that time in the market beats timing the market. The most successful investors are not the ones who guess, they are the ones who participate consistently. Automatic investing hedges against market volatility because contributions continue whether markets rise or fall, allowing investors to buy more shares when prices drop and fewer when prices rise. This is a timeless principle seen across countries. In the U.S., wealthy retirees often built their nest eggs through decades of automatic 401k contributions. In India, millions invest through automatic SIPs, or systematic investment plans, slowly building wealth despite economic fluctuations. In Canada, automatic RRSP and TFSA contributions help families secure long-term financial safety. The pattern repeats constantly. Automation creates millionaires quietly. Bach deepens this lesson by stressing the value of consistency over intensity. Wealth rarely arrives in a sudden burst. It accumulates like rainfall filling a reservoir. Even small amounts, invested regularly, build enormous results. This was seen recently during the global pandemic. People who maintained automatic investments during market crashes saw tremendous gains as markets rebounded, while those who paused missed out on recovering growth. The lesson is clear: momentum matters more than emotion.
But the magic of automatic protection is that it reinforces discipline without requiring force. People rarely make wise decisions in moments of panic, so systems help you make wise decisions in advance. Bach compares this to automatic seatbelts in modern cars. You don't think about buckling up because the system is built around you. Similarly, building automatic financial shields allows you to drive through the unpredictable roads of life with less fear and greater stability. The next natural progression in the wealth journey is learning how to own rather than rent your life. Bach emphasizes that owning a home is one of the biggest levers of long-term wealth creation. In the U.S., research shows that homeowners have dramatically higher net worth than renters, partly because mortgage payments build equity instead of disappearing into rent. Globally, the pattern is similar. In nations like Canada and the UK, homes appreciate steadily over decades, becoming wealth reservoirs for families. Even in emerging economies like Ghana, Kenya, or Nigeria, where real estate markets fluctuate, long-term property ownership often becomes a hedge against currency devaluation. For example, in Nigeria, those who bought property in cities like Lagos or Abuja 10 years ago have seen massive appreciation due to urban expansion and rising demand. The principle remains: ownership multiplies wealth silently, and when the process of paying for that ownership becomes automatic, the results become almost inevitable. Bach's teaching on homeownership becomes more powerful when paired with the concept of making payments automatic. Many people struggle to save because they depend on willpower, which inevitably weakens. But when you automate mortgage payments or investment contributions, you remove emotion and hesitation entirely. This is the same principle used by American 401k systems, where employers automatically deduct retirement contributions before employees ever touch their salary. Many U.S. workers who never considered themselves disciplined investors end up retiring with hundreds of thousands of dollars simply because the system removed the need for decision-making. This principle is equally powerful in other parts of the world, where automated banking systems are evolving. For example, many African banks now allow automated savings deductions, encouraging young professionals to set up recurring transfers into investment wallets or cooperative funds. A Kenyan teacher who sets up an automated transfer of a small percentage of her salary into a SECO, Savings and Credit Cooperative, can build capital over years without any conscious effort. A Nigerian entrepreneur who automates weekly transfers into a mutual fund or dollar-denominated savings account can achieve stability even when local currency fluctuates. These examples show that automation is not limited by geography, only by the willingness to use available tools. Another transformative lesson is eliminating debt, not by fighting it emotionally, but by setting up automatic payments that slowly erase it.
David Bach emphasizes that many people fail to get wealthy not because they don't earn, but because they bleed money through interest payments. Credit card debt, payday loans, loan sharks, high-interest overdrafts, buy now, pay later schemes, and informal debts drain wealth silently. But when you create an automated debt repayment strategy, you turn the tide in the opposite direction. The strategy is simple but powerful. Pay yourself first, then automate systematic debt reduction starting with the highest interest rate. Over time, debt shrinks without daily stress, freeing more money for investments. This principle has played out for millions across the world. In the U.S., individuals who set up automatic student loan payments or credit card repayments chip away at large balances until they disappear. In Canada, many families participate in debt snowball programs that use automatic withdrawals to eliminate debts one by one. In the UK, direct debits help individuals avoid late fees and reduce overall debt costs. In Africa, where informal loans carry extremely high interest rates, automating repayments can prevent spirals that swallow income. Across continents, the same truth wins. Automated debt repayment is a pathway to freedom. Once debt shrinks and saving becomes habitual, the next evolution is investing consistently, long-term, automatically, and without emotional interference. David Bach argues that time in the market beats timing the market. The most successful investors are not the ones who guess, they are the ones who participate consistently. Automatic investing hedges against market volatility because contributions continue whether markets rise or fall, allowing investors to buy more shares when prices drop and fewer shares when prices rise. This is a timeless principle seen across countries. In the U.S., wealthy retirees often built their nest eggs through decades of automatic 401k contributions. In India, millions invest through automatic SIPs, systematic investment plans, slowly building wealth despite economic fluctuations. In Canada, automatic RRSP and TFSA contributions help families secure long-term financial safety. The pattern repeats constantly. Automation creates millionaires quietly. Bach deepens this lesson by stressing the value of consistency over intensity. Wealth rarely arrives in a sudden burst. It accumulates, like rainfall filling a reservoir. Even small amounts, invested regularly, build enormous results. This was seen recently during the global pandemic. People who maintained automatic investments during market crashes saw tremendous gains as markets rebounded, while those who paused missed out on recovering growth. The lesson is clear. Momentum matters more than emotion.
The next principle seamlessly connects. Automate generosity. David Bach insists that wealth is not complete until it flows outward. Giving creates fulfillment, perspective, and balance, and when giving becomes automatic, it becomes sustainable. In the U.S., many high-net-worth individuals automate donations to their foundations or nonprofit organizations. Globally, people who tithe or contribute to community programs automatically find that giving becomes part of their financial rhythm instead of a burden. In Nigeria, many people support relatives, religious institutions, or charity organizations, and automating contributions ensures consistency without stress. This system not only helps others, but reinforces your identity as someone who manages money responsibly. Giving is proof of abundance. This naturally leads to the final lesson. Make the entire system automatic, because automation is the glue that holds wealth building together. Without automation, even the best intentions evaporate. Human beings forget, procrastinate, panic, overspend, or lose discipline. But machines do not. Automatic systems become your personal financial bodyguards, working 24/7. They deduct savings immediately, invest without hesitation, pay bills early, eliminate debt systematically, and maintain generosity consistently. This is how ordinary people, teachers, drivers, secretaries, nurses, entry-level workers become millionaires over time. Not through luck, gambling, or high income, but through the quiet power of automation. Bach reminds readers that the people who became automatic millionaires often did not earn unusually high salaries. Many were middle-income individuals who simply mastered the art of removing choice from the financial equation. They built lives where the money knew where to go, without needing daily supervision. But the lesson becomes even more relevant today, in a world driven by digital tools, apps, automated banking, fintech innovations, and online investment platforms. Anyone, regardless of background or geography, can build automated wealth. Whether you live in the U.S. with easy access to automated retirement accounts, in Nigeria with emerging digital savings platforms, in the U.K. with direct debit systems, or in Canada with structured contribution accounts, automation has become a universal wealth builder. The opportunity is global. And now, everything converges into a final truth. Wealth is not built by what you hope to do tomorrow, but by what you automate today. Your life changes the moment you decide that your future deserves automatic commitment, not occasional effort. The final step of the book, and this summary, is the call to action. It is not enough to understand the principles. Information without implementation changes nothing. The only way to become an automatic millionaire is to build the system now, not next month, not when you feel ready, not when you earn more. Wealth rewards urgency, not perfection. Start by automating your savings today, even if the amount is small. Automate your investments, even if you do not fully understand every detail yet. Automate your debt repayment before interest buries your effort. Automate your generosity, so abundance flows through you. Automate your protection, so emergencies never destroy your progress. Automate your path, so your discipline is no longer dependent on your daily emotions. The world has changed, and the tools for wealth are available in your pocket, on your phone, in your bank app, in your investment dashboard, and in your habits. The question is whether you will allow your future to depend on willpower, or whether you will build a life where wealth grows quietly, automatically, and consistently. Because in the end, becoming wealthy is not about working harder. It is about setting up a system that works harder than you ever could. Start today. Automate one thing, then another, and another. The moment you build the machine, your journey to becoming an automatic millionaire begins. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join us for more wisdom that fuels growth.